Hello, my name is Ed Frawley and I own Leerburg with my wife, Cindy. These are Q&As that come into the Ask Cindy on the front of Leerburg.com. And again, you don't have to be a customer to ask us a question. I don't know another website where you can get professional dog trainers that you're not doing business with and you can ask them a question and get an answer the next day. I think that's why a lot of people love Leerburg. This is a good question though, because there's a lot going on with this customer, and he is a customer. And he has a 7-month-old German Shepherd puppy, and he wants to know what course and what training he needs to get to handle his puppy with a remote collar. I'll read it, and then we're going to go through a little back and forth with Cindy to clear some things up, because when you ask us a question, you have to put in your email address. We don't spam people with emails. We don't sell our email things. That's all private. The reason we need the email address is these questions go into a ticket and a database. And if you ever call back, like what happened here, if you ever call back, Cindy can look up your email and see all the questions you've asked before. She can review what she recommended before based on a new information from you, and she can fine-tune the work that you need to do. And that's what she did here at this one. So I'm going to go through it, because you'll probably find it interesting. Hi, Cindy. I have a 7-month-old male German Shepherd puppy. He's very large, over 75 pounds. I struggled with leash pulling and reactivity to other dogs while on the leash. It started because my neighbors have 2 fence-fighting dogs that love to bark at my puppy whenever he's outside in the backyard. Just a bad deal right there, if you ask me. I'm now using a prong collar, and it's been a game changer. He no longer pulls my arm off when we go for a walk. And that is true with prong collars. I mean, you put a prong collar on a dog that's never had a prong collar on, you don't have to give him a pop on the leash. He's going to self-correct just walking into the end of the leash. And 90% of the time, that's going to cure that. His training has been limited to puppy class he took several months ago. It was really more of a socializing thing for him. He knows sit, stay, come, down, leave it, etc. All the basics. I bought a Dogtra 19X collar from you. It's their latest model, and there's very little information anywhere about it. Which course do you think would be the best for me to take? I'm a beginner with electronic collars. My goal is to train my puppy to walk off-leash using an e-collar. A lot of questions there. A lot of things that I think this customer needs to refine the goals on how they're approaching the foundation of training their dog. First, I'm going to read what Cindy said, and then I'll talk about it. Cindy said, I would suggest Ed's e-collar course as well as the Leash Reactivity course that we have done with Tyler Muto. Tyler's an excellent, excellent dog trainer, professional dog trainer in the Buffalo, New York area. If you get the reactivity under control, then loose leash walking course that we did with Tyler is also a good option, because these are 2 totally different courses. There's not a lot of overlap between the 2 because they're 2 different subjects, reactivity, loose leash walking. So the customer wrote back and they said, hi Cindy, even with the prong collar, he's still reactive on his leash towards other dogs. Sometimes he'll even bark at them. He loves people, so there's no problem there with humans. I took him to Murdoch's, not sure what Murdoch's is, the other day, and he was all over the place, pulling, whining, barking. So I definitely need more help. So I think I should do e-collar training and leash reactivity as you suggest. Is there a lot of overlap? And I've already covered that. Cindy went on to say, prong collars can often trigger reactivity behavior with dogs, especially when the dog's not trained to have the foundation for a remote collar training. To just slap a remote collar on the dog, and it's a reactive dog, and you take him out, and you haven't conditioned the dog to wearing a collar, like we show in my video, and then you stimulate that dog, you could send him into fight or flight, and on a 7-month-old dog, that's most likely going to be going to be fright, not fight. On an adult dog, putting a remote collar on him, if it's a dog a little reactive or very reactive, you put a collar on him and stimulate him, and you're too high, you can just as easily have that dog turn around and bite you. And that's the fight part of fight or flight. You'll learn that one really quick, and you'll only do it once. It's kind of like touching a hot stove. But so Cindy said that's often, the remote collar often triggers the problem with the dog. She said, based on this more recent information, I'd suggest you work through the leash reactivity material first, focus on that before worrying much about training with an e-collar. Because with Tyler Muto's leash reactivity, we don't deal with remote collar training, and that's way ahead of where you should be. That's not where you try and do or figure out how to handle leash reactivity. You could let him wear the remote collar when you're working on leash reactivity. In other words, you don't need to turn it on. Just put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off. And there's another thing that I would probably add to that. When you're conditioning your dog to wear the collar, some people say put it on there and have him wear it for a week. That doesn't mean 24/7, put it on during the day. What I would do is, you could do it multiple times a day. Put the collar on the dog. When you put it on, give him a little treat. Do not give him a treat when you take it off. Then you're rewarding the collar coming off. So you can do it throughout the day. Put the collar on, give him a treat, let him have it for a minute, take it off, put it away. A few minutes later, an hour later, put it back on, give him a treat, let him wear it around. Take the dog out, do a little leash reactivity training with him, but don't use the collar. That's the way to approach this whole thing. The customer came back to Cindy and said, Thanks, Cindy, for helping me get my priorities straight and in a line. I'll order the leash reactivity course and work on that before I start the e-collar training or the loose leash walking. And then I'm going to go back here right from the beginning where this customer says, my goal is to train my pup to walk off leash using an e-collar. My caveat to that is, if you're walking in an area that's an isolated area, away from roads, away from other dogs, away from people, with very little distractions, it's okay to walk with your dog off leash using a remote collar. But there's an old caveat that says your dog is okay with it right up to the point where it's not. And I have used my experience when I was in high school, which did not involve remote collars. They didn't have remote collars. That was 30 years before they had remote collars. But I had a dog that I got from the Pound Prince, and I've said this story before, and the only thing I knew about dog training was, this is not the 1960s, was what I read in books, and even the books weren't that good. But anyway, I had him trained to sit and to come and hand signals and the whole 9 yards. I took him out in the woods. I grew up in Canada. I'm an American, but came back to the United States and have stayed. I'd take him in the woods in the morning, come home from school, take him in the woods in the afternoon, do a lot of training. He was my buddy. One morning I was taking him out of the woods, and there was a schoolyard next to where we lived, and a cat broke and ran across the schoolyard, and Prince chased him right into the street, got killed right in front of me. This was a dog that could do hand signals for down, sit, stay, come, the whole 9 yards, except under extreme distractions. And that's where I learned that your dog isn't trained until it's trained to come and to mind under the highest level of distraction you can imagine. There's no reason when you go for a walk to have a remote collar on your dog and no leash on the dog. I just don't do it unless I'm totally in the woods and away from people. Otherwise, walk them on a long line. There's nothing wrong with that. So it's just words of warning. And the other thing here is where he talks about how he wants to teach his dog to come. After he goes through all the things he's talking about here, when he goes through the leash reactivity, when he goes through the loose leash walking, when he's going through the remote collar training, you can layer in recall training. I did a really, really good course just a couple of years ago on teaching your dog to come when called every time. And I caveat this by saying, these people that run 6 and 8 week local dog training courses and tell you you're going to train your dog, if you go through this course, this guy says this here, you're going to have a dog that comes when you call. That's a bunch of BS. It is total BS. You may have him come when called if you're in a distraction-free environment, if you're in your backyard or you're in your kitchen. But by God, you're not going to do it. You're not going to get that when you walk in the park and there's other people over there walking or playing with their dogs. This is training your dog to come all the time is a multi-layered situation that one builds on the other, that builds on the other, that builds on the other, and slowly you teach your dog how to come under distractions, and you gradually increase the distractions. At the end of that, and it's not going to be in a couple of weeks, it won't even be in a couple of months. It's anybody that tells you differently without using a remote collar and frying that dog to get him to come in, they're just bullshitting you. Just don't do it. Take your time to do it right, and you're going to have a dog that's going to be with you for the rest of your life, and he's going to love you, because if you get into the prong collar or you get into the remote collar course too strongly, too quickly, you're going to wreck your relationship with your dog. And everything that we do here is about how to build a really good relationship with your dog. It took me a long time to learn how important. That's the most important thing you can teach with your dog, is how to live under your rules, by your rules, and how to really like you and how to really like good training with you, because training can and is fun. I didn't learn that for many, many years. I would go out, and in the 60s, I was a yank and crank trainer. That's all they had back there. And my dogs minded. They liked me okay, but they didn't love me the way my dogs love me now. Just words for advice for new dog trainers. Let that be your goal. Your goal should be, I want to build a good relationship with my dog. If you go into it with that attitude, you're going to know when you step out of bounds and make a mistake.